I'm Talisman Skulls, founder of Sidutru. This is part 4. People want to know more about the words, the titles, more specifically, about Warlock and Witch. Within Sidutru, they are very important titles to be respected by those who have earned the right to be respected. It's not just cosplay. And calling it shamanism isn't accurate either, because more about Sidutru is contemplative, and there's a lot of philosophical aspects, but, it's culturally based, legitimately culturally based. But I'll go ahead and explain it and make it really simple. Warlock is actually from a compound word. That means ward, guard, protect as a prefix, and supervise, or keep. And lock is actually from the root of 3 words for lock, as in to bind and to bond, and those bonds being culture. In fact, it's the same context as the word religion means in that respect, just not as rigid and self-serving. And it's also the same source of our words for look and luck. So, literally, look at the end of warlock, which is the simplified modern English form that just drops the diazol over the time of evolution, has the contexts that can be applicable and kind of expands your meaning and understanding of the meaning to be a protector of bonds, as well as a bound protector, as in oath bound to protect the customs and to teach them correctly. One who has protective looking or defensive watching, as in being ready to protect you from something that's not right. And that's one of the reasons why, as a warlock, my job is to actually teach people these things that I have verified very carefully, and then pass them on so that people are better informed and better prepared to approach this on their own. So it's not initiation based, it's education based. And of course, luck, keeper of luck. Some would say that, that's like somebody who's like a fortune teller, but that's actually wrong. It's more of one who keeps an eye out for blessings. And that can be just about anything that you can consider a blessing. It doesn't mean something mysterious or mystical. It can be the blessing of a good relationship, blessing of friendship, but it also means that one of the roles of a warlock is to ask for a blessing for people. It could be everything from weddings to hoping that the way of someone, their spirit, makes a safe journey to the other side. And our view of the other side is that it's beyond comprehension, just like the universe is. It's a lot further than this little blue dot we live on. So for us, the spiritual realm is not owned by anybody. It's open to everybody, but you have to be careful. And just, going out and throwing out all these little so-called charms or whatever, that's not the way to handle things. And that's most of the reason why the so-called magic doesn't work, is because we have no connection with the spiritual reality of things. And people try to sit there, the religious nuts, saying, well, you understand, well then you just admitted that your religion is all about connecting with spiritual powers and trying to get something out of it and bring it down here. And that's that voodoo type stuff, and that's against God. And then I look at him and go, do you pray? Well, yeah. Do you believe in the Spirit of God? Well, yeah. And you're hoping that you'll get some blessings from Him, right? Well, yeah. Then you're trying to get something out of the spiritual realm too. Knock it off. Grow up. Well, it's different. You know, I am working on no intermediary thing. Brush it off. Walk away. So anyway, that's really all it means. And you can compare a warlock to a priest, but only to a point. It is a calling, just like anything else. And you have to have a legitimate, true sense of the sacredness and the sanctity and the importance of that position, that it is not about empowering yourself, it's about empowering the people and community you serve. And that's the major difference. You are responsible for the bonds and the principles and the theology and the emotions and the minds and the future of people. And it's not an easy job. It's not just something you go out there, throw on a fucking robe and do a couple of ceremonies, call it good, and ask for money. That's not what it's about. And it's not about a bunch of people sitting around in church reciting songs every 5-10 minutes, standing up, sitting down, sitting up, sitting down, performing some kind of ritualistic gymnastics and jumping through hoops and try and touch your nose to your butt. You know, all in the name of the Lord. That's not what it's about. And it's not about taking on the thing that just because you're a warlock you need to be respected automatically by title. That is a terrible view that anybody should have about their clergy, that they are somehow to be held on a higher pedestal than yourself, because you're basically deifying them. You're basically saying that this religious leader of yours, when you say that you're only a monotheist and that you only recognize the one supreme being, and yet you say these people that are as fallible and fucked up as anybody else, and most times worse, if they let it go to their head on everybody's faith in them, instead of above and beyond them, that lose their role as teachers and start turning into dictators. We change from the authoritarian to the tyrant. And being an authoritarian is not the same thing as being a dictator or a tyrant. It means literally having the authority and knowledge. And this applies for witches. The word witch comes from the same root as watch. Wetcha, vetcha, it's all part of the same evolution that warlock came from Bardlock all the way back, and also, you know, basically from Norse, Swedish, down to Scottish, onward into the Saxons, and down into the English. And that's, you know, that's kind of how it happened. And that's the real deal. But trying to put on this gag reel that some people do, like in Salem, Massachusetts, playing into the whole thing and saying, well, you know, Halloween is our party time, and say it's called Samhain. It's actually kind of funny, because since it means summer's end, that would mean that the actual holiday you're claiming related to the harvest is in August. And why do people have a problem with admitting that? Is because they're racist. And what I mean by that, which most people don't comprehend, is because they realize right away that people over in China do the same thing, and they call it the Bond Festival, as well as in Japan. And they're like, Because they're being racist and nationalistic idiots. A warlock isn't an idiot like that, you know. We study, we talk, we learn from other people, we see where we are connected, and we don't just simply try to appropriate something out of context that we don't know about. We don't just play divine Pokemon cards, you know, trying to get the super deck kind of thing. That's not what we're about. And we're not related to a bunch of bikers that go around and call themselves whatever they call themselves. And we're certainly not oath breakers. At least that's not the meaning of the name. There's a few that have them. And all those stupid excuses that people try to use and claim, well, you know, that's because they broke their oath with the church that they refused to serve, is a cop-out and a distortion and a lie anyways, and failure to actually research and to challenge. Also, just because the Oxford English Dictionary says something is a definitive one way, if you look at it properly, it's more of a gloss, definition by association rather than definition by meaning. And you got to consider the sources behind that and why they don't change it and correct it when the etymology is already been clarified ad nauseum. And people like myself, including other scholars, have pretty much said the same thing I've already told you what warlock actually means and where it comes from. So, that in itself is a factor that the spirituality is connected in all these ancient roots, and it also is a factor that not all the things from the past should be resurrected. But if you rely on things like the Eddas, you're relying on Christian folklore and fallacies from medieval times, mostly Catholic ones, and that's not the way to construct or uncover what's been covered up. And when you uncover it, you need to share it properly with everyone, not just go off and share what only you choose to see. Otherwise, you're creating what's called a personal truth, again, which is a universal lie. There's no such thing as a personal truth, but there's plenty of personal deceit. And that's what a warlock watches out for, too. Thank you.